Rain clung to Serena Kendrick's jacket the way exhaustion clung to her bones. She stood outside the glass doors of Vostek, her fingers tightening around the thin folder she had protected like her life depended on it. It was past closing time. Anyone with common sense would have gone home. But common sense couldn't pay rent or tuition or 3 months of overdue bills. She pushed the door, but security stepped forward immediately. "Building's closed," the guard said without looking up from his monitor. Serena tried to smile through her nerves. "Please, I just need to submit my application. The deadline is today." It's after hours," he repeated, raising a hand. "Come back in the morning." She swallowed, feeling the familiar panic rise. "If I don't submit it today, I won't qualify. Please. I won't take a minute." "You heard him." The second guard stood too, arms folded. Serena's heart sank. She should have known a company like this wouldn't bend rules for someone like her. She considered leaving, turning around and letting the opportunity slip away like so many others had, but something inside refused to let this be another loss. "Just let me drop it at reception," she tried again, this time softer. "Please." The guard opened his mouth to shut her down once more, but his voice caught when someone else approached from behind. "What's going on?" The shift in both guards' posture told her everything she needed to know. Someone important. Their sudden stiffness, the way their eyes widened slightly, made Serena turn. A tall man in a black coat paused several steps away. He wasn't intimidating because of his height or the intensity in his eyes. It was the stillness about him, the way he observed everything without speaking immediately. His expression wasn't harsh, just sharp enough that people moved out of his way without thinking. "Aiden Voss," one guard murmured under his breath. Serena had seen him in articles before. A young billionaire. The kind of man people whispered about in the tech world. But seeing him in person, she almost stepped back. "Sir," the guard said quickly, "just a visitor trying to enter after hours." Aiden's gaze drifted to Serena. It wasn't the polite glance most people offered strangers. He looked at her as if something had startled him, like he recognized her. Her soaked hair, her trembling fingers still gripping the folder, her tired eyes. None of it explained the sudden tension that flickered across his face. "You need something?" he asked, directing his question to her rather than the guards. Serena blinked. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cause a problem. I just wanted to submit my internship application. Today is the deadline and I couldn't leave work early." Aiden looked at the folder in her hand. Then at her again. "What's your name?" "Serena Kendrick." He didn't hesitate. "Let her in." The guard stepped aside instantly. "You can go up with me," he said, already walking toward the elevator. Serena hesitated, glancing at security as if expecting them to drag her back. When they didn't, she hurried to follow Aiden. "Thank you," she said quietly once she reached him. He didn't reply. He simply pressed the elevator button, waited, and stepped inside with the same controlled composure he seemed to carry like a habit. Serena stood stiffly beside him, clutching her folder against her chest. "You work 2 jobs?" he asked suddenly, still not looking at her. Her head jerked up. "How did you?" "You said you couldn't leave work early," he said simply. "Oh. Right." She shifted awkwardly. "Yes. I'm trying to balance things." "Most people don't fight this hard for an internship," he said. "I don't have a choice," she told him honestly. His eyes turned toward her again. "Most people say that. You sound like you mean it." She didn't know how to respond, so she didn't. When the elevator doors opened, he led her straight to a quiet office space and unlocked a door she recognized instantly from employee videos online. "The CEO's floor. You can submit your application here," he said. "I'll take it." Her heart pounded. She hadn't expected this. She placed the folder on his desk with careful hands, hoping it didn't look as worn out as she felt. "You put a lot of work into this," he said, pulling out a few pages and scanning them. "I tried." "You didn't try," he corrected. "You committed." She froze. It was strange hearing something like that from him. Her professors rarely noticed her. Her coworkers definitely didn't. Her life was built on doing things quietly and hoping it mattered. Aiden closed the folder and looked at her fully now. "Why do you want this internship?" The question wasn't on the application form. It wasn't something she prepared for. She felt her throat tighten. "Because I want a chance at something better than everything else," she answered. I'm tired of barely keeping my life together. I'm tired of feeling like I'm always one step away from losing everything. Aiden watched her with unsettling focus. She almost regretted telling the truth. She didn't know this man. She didn't know why he cared enough to ask. "You're honest," he said. "I'm just tired," she whispered. For a moment neither spoke. The silence wasn't uncomfortable. It felt more like he was trying to understand something he couldn't quite grasp. "You'll hear from HR soon," he finally said. She nodded, relieved. "Thank you. Truly." She turned to leave, her soaked shoes squeaking slightly against the polished floor. When she reached the elevator and stepped inside, she let out a breath she'd been holding for too long. It wasn't until she was outside the building again, breathing in the cold air, that she realized something. Her necklace. The small silver one she always wore. It wasn't on her. Panic tugged at her, but she was too drained to run back inside. She'd come back for it tomorrow. Inside the office, Aiden stood alone, the thin chain wrapped around his fingers. He didn't know why he followed her with his eyes the moment she left the room, but he did. And when she was gone, something in him refused to set the necklace down. It was familiar. Too familiar. He stared at it for a long time before whispering under his breath, barely audible. "This can't be." Because he had seen this necklace before. Years ago. On someone he once swore he would protect. And now, it belonged to a girl who had just walked into his life by accident. Or something far more unsettling. Serena's first day at Vostek began earlier than she expected. Before she even reached her desk assignment, HR informed her she would not be working in the general intern area after all. She was being placed directly under the CEO. She stood there blinking, unsure if she misheard. "I'm working with Mr. Voss?" she asked. "Yes," the HR manager replied. He approved the change himself. Her stomach twisted. She didn't know what she had done during that brief meeting to stand out, but the idea of working so close to him made her hands feel strangely cold. "He'll brief you this morning," the manager added. Serena nodded, though she felt far from ready. She smoothed her clothes and walked to the elevator, reminding herself this was an opportunity. A huge one. Even if she felt like an imposter, she had to act like she belonged. When she reached the executive floor, the receptionist smiled politely. "Mr. Voss is expecting you. You can go right in." Of course he was. Of course he expected her. She tried not to overthink as she opened the office door. Aiden Voss stood at his desk, sleeves rolled up slightly, reviewing files. He looked different without the coat, more grounded, almost approachable, but the intensity didn't disappear. It didn't matter what he wore, he carried that with him. He glanced up as she stepped inside. "You're early." "I didn't want to be late," she answered. He closed the file. "Good. Sit." She took the seat across from him, wishing she didn't feel so aware of herself. Aiden didn't waste time. "You'll assist me directly," he said. "Reports, scheduling, data sorting, internal communication summaries." Serena nodded, absorbing everything quickly. "I can handle that." "I know you can," he replied simply. "Your application made that clear." The compliment caught her off guard. "Thank you." "There's no need for thanks. You earned the spot." His voice was matter-of-fact, but his eyes lingered on her slightly longer than they needed to. She looked down at her hands. She didn't want him to think she was uncomfortable, but she wasn't sure how someone was supposed to behave around a man like him. "I kept your necklace," he said suddenly. Her head snapped up. "Oh right. I meant to come back for it. I'm so sorry. You don't need to apologize." He opened a drawer and handed it to her. "It looked important." "It is," she said softly as she clasped it back around her neck. "Thank you." A strange tension settled between them, not unpleasant, just heavy in a way that made her aware of every breath. Aiden didn't say anything else about it, but Serena didn't miss the way his gaze flicked to the necklace one last time before he returned to his work. For most of the morning they worked in quiet. Aiden gave instructions with brief, clear explanations, and Serena focused on not messing up. She double-checked every detail twice. She didn't want to give him any reason to move her back to the general intern area. By noon she finally felt like she was catching her rhythm. A knock sounded at the door before she could ask Aiden about the next set of notes. The door opened without waiting for permission. Elias Voss stepped in. Serena recognized him immediately. Same sharp jawline as Aiden, same dark hair. but his expression held an easy charm that Aiden didn't bother presenting. He smiled at the sight of her. "So this is the mysterious intern," Elias said, leaning casually against the doorframe. "Aiden's been unusually quiet about you." Aiden's jaw tightened. "I'm not quiet. I'm busy." "That's one way to put it." Elias turned his attention fully to Serena, extending a hand. "I'm Elias. Younger brother. Troublemaker according to him." Serena shook his hand politely. "Serena Kendrick. First day. First day and already promoted to the top floor," Elias teased. "Impressive." "She's qualified," Aiden said sharply. Elias raised his eyebrows. "I didn't say she wasn't." Serena shifted in her seat, unsure how to navigate the tension. Elias smiled warmly. "Relax. He just looks like that all the time." Aiden didn't smile. "Do you need something?" "I wanted to see who has you acting territorial this morning," Elias said with too much honesty, glancing playfully between them. "I'm not territorial," Aiden snapped. Serena's eyes widened a little, unsure why her presence was causing tension. Elias simply smirked and turned to her again. "If he becomes unbearable, you can work with me instead." Before Serena could respond, Aiden cut in. "She's not working with you." Elias laughed lightly. "See? Territorial." Serena tried to focus on professionalism. "I appreciate the offer, but I'm fine here." Aiden looked strangely satisfied with that answer. Elias gave her one last amused look before pushing off the doorframe. "Well, Serena Kendrick, welcome to Vostek. If my brother gives you trouble, come find me." He left with a confident stride, not waiting for a response. When the door closed, Serena dared a glance at Aiden. His expression was difficult to read, not angry, not annoyed, just unsettled. "He doesn't know how to mind his business," Aiden muttered, returning to his desk. Serena hesitated. "He seems friendly." "He seems manipulative," Aiden corrected. "Be careful around him." She wasn't sure what to say to that, so she nodded and returned to her task. But she couldn't ignore the small shift in the atmosphere. After Elias left, Aiden's attention on her grew sharper. Not in a controlling way, but in a way that made her feel he noticed things she didn't even realize she was doing. When she finished organizing the last of the documents, she stood. "I'm going to take these to the archive room." Aiden stood too. "I'll go with you." She blinked. "You don't have to. I can manage." "I know," he said simply. "I'll still go." Serena wasn't sure why he insisted, but she didn't argue. They walked together, each step echoing softly. She could feel his presence beside her, not hovering, just near enough to be impossible to ignore. As they reached the archive room, Serena's phone buzzed. She glanced down. Unknown number. The same number that occasionally called, never leaving a message, never speaking when she answered. Her stomach dropped. Aiden noticed. "Is everything all right?" "Yes," she said quickly. It's nothing." He didn't believe her. She could tell by the way his eyes stayed on hers a moment too long. "If someone is bothering you." "No one is," she cut in, forcing a smile. "I'm fine." Aiden didn't push, but the tension in his posture didn't fade. The rest of the afternoon passed quietly, though Serena kept replaying that moment in her head. She didn't want him to worry. She didn't even know why she cared if he did. Toward the end of the day, she stayed late to finish organizing a set of reports. Aiden had stepped out for a meeting, leaving her alone on the floor. When she finally shut down her computer and headed toward the elevator, the lights flickered once. Then again. Then everything went dark. The elevator doors slid open anyway, the only functioning thing on the floor. Serena hesitated before stepping inside, hoping to just get downstairs and go home. But before she could press the lobby button, the doors closed behind her, and Aiden stepped in. "You're still here," he said. "The outage," she started, not sure what to say. The lights dimmed again, the elevator shuddered, and then it stopped completely. Serena grabbed the rail for balance. Aiden pressed the emergency button, but the speaker crackled uselessly. "Backup should come on soon," he said. But she heard uncertainty in his voice. Seconds passed. Maybe minutes. It was impossible to tell in the dark. "You're shaking," Aiden said quietly. "I just don't like small spaces," she admitted, embarrassed. He moved a little closer. "You're safe." She believed him. She didn't know why, she just did. Then when the emergency lights finally flicked back on, she noticed something carved faintly into the metal wall of the elevator. A shape. A symbol. Her breath left her chest. Aiden followed her gaze. His eyes narrowed. "Why do you recognize that?" Serena swallowed hard. "I don't. I just... Don't lie." She looked down at her trembling hands, unable to answer. Because she did recognize it. And she had no idea how to explain why. The panic that followed my kidnapping refused to settle even after I made it back to Aiden's penthouse. The doctor said I would be fine, that the bruises would fade and the pain in my ribs would ease in a few days. But the real ache sat deeper. Somewhere between fear and confusion. I kept replaying everything I heard in that warehouse. Every word Tobias had said. Every hint he dropped that there was more to Aiden's past than I knew. Aiden didn't leave my side. Not when the doctor cleaned my cuts. Not when I kept flinching every time someone entered the room. Not even when he looked like he hadn't slept in years. But there was distance too. Soft, invisible, growing in the pauses between our conversations, settling in the questions I was too tired to ask. That night, after the last doctor left, I lay awake staring out at the skyline while Aiden stood at the window. His shoulders were tense, hands buried in his pockets like he was trying to keep something inside. When he finally turned to me, there was something raw in his eyes. "You shouldn't have been dragged into this," he said quietly. I swallowed. "That wasn't your fault." "It was," he said. "Everything that happened to you, it was because of me." He walked toward the bed slowly, like he was approaching a truth he didn't want to face. "There's something you need to know," he said. "And I need you to hear all of it before you decide what to do with me." My heart tightened. I already knew this was coming. The truth Tobias taunted him about. But hearing Aiden say it made everything inside me tense. He sat at the edge of the mattress. My father was not the man people think he was. He didn't just build an empire. He controlled one. He had influence everywhere. Politics, finance, places no one should have power in. When I was younger, I thought he was simply successful. I didn't know the cost of it until it was too late. He paused, jaw tightening. Tobias was working for him. For years. And when my father died, there were debts, secrets, alliances that didn't die with him. Tobias wanted control of what my father left behind. But he needed leverage to pressure me into giving it to him. "Me," I whispered. Aiden shut his eyes for a moment. "You." The weight of it hit me harder than I expected, not because I felt used, but because I knew Aiden had carried this burden for far longer than I realized. "I didn't want you anywhere near this world," he said, voice low. "I thought I could protect you by keeping the truth from you. But that only put you in more danger." I wanted to be angry. I wanted to tell him he should have trusted me sooner. But all I saw was the tension in his shoulders, the exhaustion in his eyes, the guilt weighing on him so heavily it almost made him look older. "You protected me," I said softly. "Even when you didn't know how." His hand brushed lightly over mine, hesitant, almost afraid to touch me. "I'm not a good man, Serena." "I don't need you to be," I said. "I just need you to be honest with me." Something in him eased then. Barely, but enough that he let out a breath like he had been holding it for too long. The next morning, I woke to the sound of Aiden talking quietly on the phone, giving instructions to someone about shutting down the last of his father's secret networks. It wasn't business talk. It was the kind of voice he only used when he was burning bridges. When he hung up, he turned to me. "It's done," he said. "What is?" "All of it. Tobias's leverage. My father's shadow. The things I kept from you. I'm ending everything tied to him." I blinked at him, surprised. "That's a big step." "It's the only way I can make sure you're never hurt because of me again." We had breakfast together, but neither of us ate much. My body was healing, but my mind still felt bruised. Still, there was something calmer about the air between us. Something like understanding taking shape after weeks of confusion. Later, while Aiden reviewed some documents, I walked to the balcony for fresh air. The city felt quieter than usual, or maybe it was just me. My life had changed so drastically in such a short time. From a normal internship interview to being pulled into a billionaire's secrets. I never imagined any of this could happen. Aiden joined me a moment later. "You know," I said softly, "I keep thinking about how everything started. You pushing people away. The way you looked at me like you didn't know whether to run or keep me close." He exhaled a short breath that was almost a laugh. "I tried to stay away from you." "I know. And I failed," he added. I'm glad you failed. He leaned against the railing beside me, but he didn't look at the view, only at me. You don't have to stay, he said quietly. I need you to know that. After everything that happened, I won't blame you if you walk away. My chest tightened. And where would I go? I asked. You still have a life outside of me, he said. Dreams that have nothing to do with my world. I also have a choice, I said. And I'm choosing to stay. His expression shifted, like he didn't expect to hear that. Like he didn't think he deserved it. Then he reached for my hand slowly, giving me room to pull away if I wanted to. I didn't. Serena, he said, voice low. I told myself I wouldn't let you become another secret I keep. But the truth is, you're the only thing I've ever wanted that I'm afraid to lose. There was no grand gesture, no dramatic confession. Just the quiet, aching honesty of two people who had already been through too much to pretend anymore. I stepped closer. Then don't lose me. He pulled me gently into his arms, careful of my still healing injuries. And for the first time since everything happened, I felt safe. Not because the danger was gone, but because I finally understood the man holding me. Weeks passed and life slowly found its balance again. The investigation closed. Tobias disappeared from the picture. Aiden finished shutting down every lingering connection to his father. And through it all he stayed close, not possessive, not overwhelming, just present. Like he was relearning how to exist without fear shaping every decision. One evening, as we sat on the couch with paperwork scattered around us, Aiden took my hand again. Serena Kendrick, he said quietly, like the name itself meant something sacred now. I know I can't erase what happened. But I want a life with you. One built on truth, not secrets. I looked at him, really looked at him. The man who once kept the world at a distance was giving me a piece of himself no one else had ever seen. And I want that life with you, I whispered. Aiden's expression softened, not with intensity but with something deeper. Something real. He leaned forward and kissed me, gentle and steady, like the beginning of something neither of us needed to rush or prove. There were no more shadows between us. No more secrets threatening to break us. Just a man who loved me and a future we were ready to build together. A quiet ending, simple, honest, and ours.